When Siddharth Khanduri and 28 other people, young mountaineers, died in a tragic avalanche on a clear day on the 4th of October 2022 in Garhwal Himalayas at 18,600 feet in the district of Uttarkashi in the Himalayan state of Uttarakhand, I was deeply devastated. So these 29 and some others were undergoing what is called the advanced training course at the Nehru Institute of Mountaineering in Uttarkashi. Now, of course, disasters and accidents are nothing new to, of course, as you know well, to the Himalayan region. But there was something about this particular tragedy which moved me immensely. I would call it also, in some sense, a personal watershed moment for me, where my own empathy, my own sensitivity, my own awareness about the tragedies that unfold on a regular basis in states like Uttarakhand truly, really shook me. In fact, the year of 2023 has been a tragic year, not only for Uttarakhand, but as you know well, also for the states of Himachal Pradesh and the state of Sikkim. This particular picture that you see here is in the aftermath of the biggest tragedy which affected our state on the 3rd of August, again this year, barely a few months ago. And this is from a place called Gaurikund, which is some sorts of a base camp when you go towards the holy shrine of Kedarnath. Looking back at the entire year of 2023, when land subsidence started hitting the town of Joshimath, followed by the monsoon of 2023 in Himachal, and then Uttarakhand, of course, as well as what happened recently in Sikkim. These are all grim reminders, realities of the kind of challenges that confront the Himalayan region, the vulnerable and the fragile Himalayan region of our country. Such sort of incidents are happening at such a frequent pace. One wonders what really are the reasons, what are the causes that are causing this kind of mayhem, this kind of disasters. And while there are many reasons, today's conversation is actually on climate-induced disasters. So, as I said, there are sort of a host of various reasons, but focusing on climate change itself is one of the key reasons why, again, the Himalayan region and states like Uttarakhand are witnessing such frequent tragedies. When we are looking at the climate crisis and looking at the basics, the very basics of the climate crisis, climate is nothing else but long-term shift in temperature and weather pattern. In fact, one term which has now become kind of passé is global warming. The world is today not talking about global warming, but the world is today talking about global boiling. And this term came into being, in fact, it has been there for a while, but this particular July, the July of 2023, has been the hottest July ever recorded in human history since 1880, as per NASA. So, the 9th Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Antonio Guterres, in the United Nations, called it towards the end of July that now the era of global warming is over and we are into global boiling. Now, why is it happening? And the key reason for what the whole world is facing today is due to the rampant and widespread use of fossil fuels like oil, coal, and gas. And these are the ones which are resulting in 75% greenhouse gases. Of course, one might wonder and one can ask, what are these greenhouse gases? Gases like carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, which, when going up, trap the sun's heat in the atmosphere and create what is called a greenhouse effect. And friends, to understand the greenhouse effect in very, very layman terms is something like stepping into a car in the summer months when the doors and the windows are shut and how hot we feel. And in some sense, what we're encountering at that particular moment is a greenhouse gas moment. This whole discourse, an entire conversation on climate is centered around that elusive 1.5 degrees centigrade. In fact, these pictures are perhaps not representative of the scale of the widespread damages that our world today faces. Whenever there is talk about climate change, there is always a reference point, which is 1850 to 1900, which is the pre-industrial period. And imagine 1.5 degree might not sound much, but the world has already warmed 1.1 degree from in the last 120, 150 years. And even at 1.1 degree, the kind of cloudbursts, the kind of landslides, the kind of erratic rains that we are all witnessing in different parts of our country and in different parts of the world tells us about the challenges that are faced by humanity as a whole. In fact, in the year 2015, December, to be precise, the Paris Agreement came into being when 196 countries of the world came on one platform, common platform, and said that we will do all that we can in our cumulative might to hold the global temperature rise to 2 degrees while pursuing efforts to limit it to 1.5 degrees. So there is, of course, a lot of things which are going on at a global stage. Countries like India have committed to be net zero by 2070, while developed nations like the US and others are talking about 2050. So this is some sort of a base for the basics of climate change and the climate crisis that our world is encountering today. In the midst of all these challenges encountering all of us, we need to seek and we need to search for solutions. And while the world and countries and governments and corporates do their part, today I am here in front of you to talk about what ordinary people and citizens like you and I can do. Of course, I know and I understand that the heavy lifting and the power lifting has to be done by countries and by governments, but surely there's something we as citizens can do. And to be able to do that, the first thing, and again the basic is the basic of our carbon and our consumption footprint. What exactly is a carbon footprint? A carbon footprint, said very simply, is the accumulation of greenhouse gases that are accumulated due to our own actions in terms of either an activity or in terms of a product that we buy. So let me make it very simple again, through an example and through some numbers. Again, when we are looking at the whole world, there is a global average, and the average global citizen's carbon footprint on an annual basis is 6.5 to 7 metric ton per annum. Now, one metric ton is 1,000 kilograms. So if we are saying, or when we are saying 7 metric ton, what we are essentially saying is that a global citizen, his or her greenhouse gas emission on an annual basis is 7,000 kilogram. Let's deep dive a little bit into this 7,000 kilogram through some thumbnail numbers. Ma'am, let us assume that you have a family of 4. And in your family of 4, on a monthly basis, you are consuming 400 units of electricity. Very roughly and very broadly speaking, 1 unit of electricity is equal to 1 kilogram of carbon dioxide equivalent. Similarly, if your family, again, as an example, is using 100 liters of petrol or diesel on a month, and again, here is a word of caution, these are mere thumbnails. So 100 liters of petrol or diesel multiplied by 3 will be equivalent to 300 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent. And let's assume further that your household is using 2 LPG gas cylinders. 1 LPG is 14 kilograms. Each kilogram is again equivalent to, again, ballpark, 1 kilogram of LPG is equal to 3 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent. So if we take this very simple example, we are talking about the units in your house of electricity, we are talking about your petrol or your diesel consumption, and we are talking about your LPG consumption, and then we are adding up all these numbers. And that is one very simple way. Naturally, there are many, many apps through which you can calculate your own carbon footprint, but I want to make it very, very simple here. Even if we don't go into apps, just to be aware about our own carbon footprint and about our own consumption can surely make a difference somewhere or the other. I urge and I request each one of you to please consider and to think about your own carbon and your own consumption footprint in a world which is rapidly and grappling with this entire challenge of the climate crisis. This, in a sorts, is my last slide here. And I want to leave you with a very simple model of moving the needle. In my own way of thinking, I don't think it is important to be 100% perfect. But imagine if each one of us could do just a little bit less. If each one of us could just consume a little bit less. I think together, all of us can make a massive, huge difference towards the health of this planet. So my friends, these three words are very, very simple. This is A, to be aware, B, to act on that awareness, and 3, to amplify. Amplify means advocacy. And when, again, many more of us are aware, we are acting, and when we are amplifying, we are normalizing this behavior and bringing about a change in the thinking pattern in the people, not only in our cities, in our states, in our country, but across the entire world. Since I come from Uttarakhand, I come from the holy land of the Himalayas and the Ganga, I want to end with the inspiring lines of the legendary poet Shri Dushyant Kumarji. And I want to end by saying these very, very inspiring lines which say that ho gayi hai peer parvat si pigalni chahiye. It's my belief that the time has come to change, the time has come for change. And if there ever was a moment to ask and embrace for change, it is the time now. And that is why I choose these lines. Ho gayi hai peer parvat si pigalni chahiye. Is Himalaya se koi Ganga निकलनी चाहिए. And then it goes on, but I'll come towards the end. हो गई है पीर पर्वत सी पिघलनी चाहिए, इस हिमालय से कोई गंगा निकलनी चाहिए. सिर्फ हंगामा खड़ा करना मेरा मकसद नहीं, सारी कोशिश है ये सूरत बदलनी चाहिए. इस हिमालय से कोई गंगा निकलनी चाहिए. मेरे सीने में नहीं तो तेरे सीने में सही, मेरे सीने में नहीं तो तेरे सीने में सही. हो कहीं भी आग, लेकिन आग जलनी चाहिए. इस हिमालय से कोई गंगा निकलनी चाहिए. थैंक यू.